guys, welcome back to Living the Gandy Life. If you are new here, my name is Faith, and today I wanted to share with you guys how we covered science and more specifically the human body this year. So if you've watched any of my curriculum videos, you know that we do some memory work through our Classical Conversations Foundations Guide. We are in cycle 3, and so the first half of cycle 3 actually covers the human body. And so what this kind of does is this gives us a jumping point or jumping block for what we're covering in science. So for example, for the first week, we named 4 types of tissue. So the 4 types of tissue are connective, epithelial, muscle, and nerve. And so we were memorizing this with our CC stuff. So when we were using that as our jumping point, then we would find some other curriculum. So I also shared that we were using this in addition to our Classical Conversations memory work. This lined up extremely well with our guide and the different work. So for example, when we were memorizing that memory sentence about the different types of tissue, it also aligned with perfectly the different things of cells, tissues, and organs. And so actually over here, we actually have a nerve cell, we have muscle cells, red blood cells, white blood cells, and so we learned about the different kinds of cells and what they would look like. And so while this was what we started with, the memory work and the memory sentence that we did for science, then after our time of memorizing this, we would pull out this book. And you'll see that the sections for this are super short and manageable, which I loved. They were not long. They didn't have a lot of different activities or different things to go along with it. It was just perfectly lined up. So, and perfectly short and just like short and sweet. So, you have this page and this one and then this one for that section. So that was what we were covering for the week. So each week we were memorizing one sentence or one fact about the human body, and then we were supplementing with this book. So I would flip through and find something that aligned with what we were memorizing. So for the very first week, this was what we did. So what it entails is it has some words to know, it has some challenge words, and then I would read this to them. We would look at the picture, and then at the end, it has some questions. So what did we learn and taking it further. Then when you buy this, you can also buy the teacher's supplement. So if you're not really sure of, being able to answer the questions and make sure that they're giving you the correct answer, it was great because they actually align and give you the answers as well in the book. So it also gives you a, when you buy this set, it gives you a link to be able to go and download some worksheets. Now, we never actually have done this in this unit where we've gone and downloaded the worksheets, but the worksheets might have some matching or some word fill in the blank, and it actually gives you the answers to those questions as well. But then the questions that were in this text, it gives the answers over here. So I was able to refer to these questions if I wasn't exactly sure, didn't want to have to flip back through and find the answer from what we read. But the kids, I was surprised at how well they were able to listen and be able to answer these questions that pertained to the unit that we were talking about that week. So this was a great one. I can't say enough about how well it truly aligned with the memory work that we were doing in this book. So we actually also learned about the axial skeleton, the bones that make it up, the 5 senses, and then lots of the different systems. So we learned about the digestive system, the excretory system, circulatory system, lymph system, respiratory, endocrine, and then the major purposes of blood. And for each week, I was able to actually read 1 or 2 different sections about our memory work that were in this book. So, like here is a little section on the brain. So we read about the brain when we were doing the nervous system, because there was also a section on the nervous system. So we would have, when we were studying the nervous system, we read about the nervous system as a section. So that would have been one day, because I was doing 2 days a week. split up, like every other day, maybe like a Monday and a Wednesday we were doing science. So this nervous system would have been one day, and then the brain would have been another day. Now, I also shared that we have a history and science notebook. That is where we just I let the kids document what they felt was important from that day's lesson. So here's an example from there. There are the different cells that we drew when we were learning about the different kinds of cells. We learned about the axial skeleton, and also learned that 2 million red blood cells are made up in your bones every second. So those were just some fun facts that Gabriel found interesting as we were going over the units. Obviously, we also read that there are 206 bones in our body. Now this one, like I said, since it is both history and science, it is intermixed. This is a unit in which we were studying the different kinds of muscle. So we have skeletal, cardiac, and smooth. And so he made an example of each of the different muscles. So obviously for skeletal, we had to have our gluteus maximus. The boy humor, right? They will always find the most inappropriate ones to use, but they found the gluteus maximus for an example of a skeletal muscle. So just again, some more examples of how we use our notebooks to document the things that we were learning. We weren't using any formal worksheets. We were just doing our memory work, using some books to further elaborate on that memory work, get some details and add some more information to what we were learning. And then we were just documenting what we're learning in just a simple plain notebook. It's nothing super fancy. Here we were learning about germs. So talking about a guy with germs. Here's about the different blood cells and what they there was a story in there of how it talked about how red blood cells were kind of like a delivery truck, and valves are like a traffic signal, and the oxygen, nutrients, and carbon dioxide are like the cargo that gets transported in your delivery truck. So those were the kind of things that stuck out. So that was what he drew and what he wrote about. So again, nothing fancy. We weren't using any worksheets, just doing our own process, our own mental thoughts here, and then just recording them in our workbook. So that works out really well. We did have just some supplements of little books. So if you've never seen these flat books from Usborne, but this one was See Inside Your Body. So each week we would just use this as an opportunity, especially when we're studying the digestive system. These books make really great just additional resources that are really get the kids wanting to look through them and just, stare at the amazing illustrations and all the little facts and everything that are in them. So this was just an additional fun resource that we would pull out and just sit together as a family, looking through, pulling up all the flaps and reading all the facts. So this was a fun one to throw in as well. Now, along with studying it, we also have used this book called My Body. And I got this several years ago on Amazon. I want to say it was like $5 or $6. It's not even, it doesn't have maybe 45 pages, 40 pages, and it's super simple. But what I like about this book is that it makes it very interactive. So what this book does is gives you the blueprints to making a life-size body of your child, and then being able to reproduce, make copies essentially of some of these papers and color them, and then you're attaching them to this big piece of paper that's laid out like your child. And I'll give you an example here in a second, so you might be wondering what I'm talking about. But this one is super fun and engaging with the kids. So let me show you real quick. This is gonna be noisy, I apologize. So we're talking like a big rollout here. Let me move here so you can see. So this is even taller than what I can. This is for Gabriel, and I probably should have grabbed my younger kids. But what it is we just got a roll of paper, and then we had them lay on the paper and trace the outline of their body. Now you can see that a lot of the body parts have fallen off since we have done it. Our glue, you can see our glue is not holding on super well. But as we made the body, and then we talked about these different parts, the different organs, pause. So after we made that big outline of the kids on the brown paper, they had the general outline of their body, right? Well, this book was great because it goes through all the organs, and you can make copies of them. So here is the liver. And so I would make a copy of this entire paper for each kid, each one of my kids that was doing it. It shows exactly to color it reddish brown. It tells you where you'll need a brad to attach it to the body. And then as they're coloring it and cutting it out, it gives me information about the liver that I can read to them and use as a way to get a conversation started, asking them questions, just giving them more information about the liver as they're coloring it, cutting it out, and then gluing it to their person. And it was also great because it even shows you on the picture exactly where you're going to be attaching it on the body. If you're unsure of is the right, the left, where it's going to be going. So it goes through all of these different organs that you can go. So you've got your small intestine and the large intestine. And again, with each one, they're giving you just, this overview of what the organs do, which is great. So it was a good conversation. It has some really great facts, things that like how long the large intestine would be if you stretched it out, how long the small intestine would be if you stretched it out. And those kind of facts really fascinated the kids. So then we would get out a measuring tape and we would measure it out and see, wow, that's how long it is if we took it out and we completely stretched it out. Those were the fun things that they really thought were enjoyable about it. But it goes through all of the organs. It's super fun. They have some examples of things that have fallen off because of poor gluing. But here would have been a stomach where it's ready, and it shows you that you would attach it to the small intestine here and then to the esophagus here, but this is the stomach. So this is about how big some of the organs were. Our gluing abilities kind of lacked in this element because they have fallen off. So it's really great. Here's an example too of like just a copy of what I've printed out that I would hand them. They would color it out. It gives them the directions, and then they were cutting it. So it was a really fun project for them to do, to be able to learn about them, kind of figure out where they go in the body, and then kind of see it all in front of them and being able to see what's actually inside of them on this paper. So I would highly suggest. It's not super expensive, and it was a really great and interactive way to learn about the body. So it was just super fun little project for us to do. So guys, that's all I have. That is how we covered the human body. We were predominantly using our Classical Conversations Foundations Guide as our memory work, and then really piggybacking off of this with that. So this really gave us our meat because it has such great information on it. It went to in-depth. It really covered all of the areas that we were covering in it. And then as far as our hands-on activities, we really enjoyed our My Body book. So this was a super cheap one to add on, and it does have some information on. I would just have to say that this probably is giving you a little bit more in-depth information on those subjects. So if you guys have any questions, as usual, I'm happy to answer them. Drop those questions below. I will put links below of these books and where you can find them. And until next time, guys, have a blessed day.